Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with inspiring people like our new friend Tracey here on topics to help our listeners find the resources, tools, and support they need to be their best inspired selves. So how are you doing today, Tracey?
I'm actually doing very well.
Great.
It's a beautiful sunny day here. It's all good.
Yeah, actually, we have a little sun today as well, and I live in Wisconsin, in the States, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we tend to have a lot of gray days and a
Us too.
lot of rain, and we have some sun today, so maybe I'll get outside.
Always, right? Nothing like the sun on your face.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So would you mind telling the audience a little bit like who you are and about yourself? That would be awesome.
So the mini-me version, otherwise the long version will take up the show. So I'm a retired nurse. I retired after 37 years on December 31st last year. Born in Wales. Always wanted to be a nurse, born into a very dysfunctional, abusive family. And so my two goals in life were to leave Wales and become a nurse. And that kind of propelled me forward despite everything that was going on. Completed my nurse training in 1987, moved from Wales to Canada, where I've been living ever since. Continued my nursing, worked in all avenues, gerontology, dementia care, palliative care, community. And then in 2015, after 4.5 years of extremely bad workplace bullying, I had a nervous breakdown, for want of a better word, an acute depressive episode, and promptly fell down the rabbit hole. It was just the worst experience of my life, for want of a better word. Suicide attempts, suicidal thoughts constantly. Even, as a nurse, I thought I knew all about depression. I read up on so much, and I still couldn't make sense of what was going on with me. Not only the mental and the emotional, but the physical effects that come with depression. About a year into therapy, I was progressing, but not as quickly as I wanted. And so I would go and see my therapist, and I kept telling him, I keep going out, I'm in a routine, I'm trying to function, and I'm a Brit. And so we always, you have to have your Sunday best on when you go out, because you may get hit by an ambulance. That was what I grew up with. And when people would see me, they would look at me and say, there's nothing wrong with you. If you have depression, it's the mild version. And they would just tell me all these things that, to be perfectly honest, it's a wonder I didn't just run out into traffic and hurl myself in front of a bus, because some of them were quite horrible. And my psychologist said, well, why don't you start a blog and really tell people what it's like living with depression, especially from a nurse's point of view, and the things they say, how hurtful they are. And so I thought, I don't know if I want to expose myself that much. But after about a couple of weeks, I thought, no, I have to do this. And immediately I got comments, this needs to be a book. You need to put this in a book. This went on every time I posted a blog, which was like practically weekly or bi-weekly. And after 6 months, I was inundated with so many people saying, you've got to put this in a book. We didn't realize. I happened upon an editor and an author in Montreal, Canada, and said, everyone keeps telling me, put this in a book. Can you tell me your honest opinion? And a couple of hours later, she phoned and said, I've got you an editor in Toronto. You've got to write the book. So April 2018, the book was officially released. My plan was I was going to go on the media, travel Canada, USA, and talk about depression and mental illness as an adult and my book. And so that was the big plan. And then, as we all know, with life purpose, things take a change. And so a couple of weeks after the book was released, I was invited to go to a school and talk to some teenagers. And it was actually about my book and the imagery I used to convey how I was feeling and my emotions. Like there's a section in the book where I likened my brain to an erupting volcano. And the English teacher felt, she'd read my book, felt it would be very helpful for those that were struggling with creative writing. Except, you see all these behind me, I had them enlarged, they're my book illustrations enlarged for the book release party. And so I decided I would take these with me to the talk. And as I started displaying them on the wall behind me, everything changed in the classroom. They'd been really busy on their phones, talking, very disruptive when I first arrived. And I thought, oh gosh, what have you let yourself in for? And as I put each illustration up, the room went silent. And all of a sudden you could hear talking, and it was whispering back and forth. That's how I feel. That's what my mum says she feels like. And I sat down, I started talking about my book, and hands went up, and it was all about depression and suicide. And how do you know if you're depressed, and where do you go for help? And how do they help their mum who has depression? And it was 1 hour of a talk around bullying and mental illness and suicide. And 2 weeks later, I was asked to come back to their human library, which is their version of Career Day. And it was basically for me to be there as a new author and publisher to explain how I published my book. Except when the first group sat down, when I started talking about the book, they're all kind of, looking at each other going, what is she talking about? And they're shuffling. And I thought, I wonder. So I stopped and I said, did you sign up for my class? And they said, yes. And I said, you seem confused. Can you tell me why you signed up for my class? And finally, one of them kind of had the courage, and she said, we heard about you. You're the lady that escaped the rabbit hole, and we want you to tell us how you did it. And so it began. Every 30 minutes, 8 to 12 groups of teenagers, 11 to 15, sat down at the table, and the conversation was bullying, self-harm, mental illness, suicide. And then after each session, I was waiting for the next group, there'd always be a couple of students that would be kind of privately staying behind, wanting to have a private conversation. And my 2 teenagers, I call them the pivotal moments for me, was a 15-year-old girl who was stunningly beautiful with long red hair, just absolutely gorgeous. And she whispered in my ear, where can I get your book? And I said, well, actually, I'm leaving a signed copy for the library so you can read it. And she said, I've just come home from hospital after my second suicide attempt. And then she lifted her sleeve, and it was nothing but cut marks all the way up her arm. And I was just gobsmacked. 15 years old and 2 attempts to end her life. And then towards the end of the afternoon, there was a group, and there was a boy. I noticed him. He was off on the corner of the group. He had a hoodie on. You could see his body language. He was very withdrawn, very dark. And I knew something wasn't right, but he would not engage in the conversation going on. And then after the group left, I noticed him kind of just lingering there. And he was so embarrassed and uncomfortable. He was stammering and stuttering. And he said to me, can I talk to you? And I said, of course you can. How can I help? And he literally fell into my shoulder, sobbing his heart out. And he said, I've been in the rabbit hole 7 years. When will I escape? And that was it. That was it. At the end of the day, as I was packing my things up, the school counselor actually came, sat down at the table and reprimanded me that I was brought in to talk about, a career, and it was none of my business to talk to all those kids who had come up and confided in me. It was actually, I had 63 teenagers come and confide in me. And I said, I'm going, don't worry, before I leave, I'm going to see the principal. I'm going to explain to him all those that I'm concerned about, and that there needs to be follow-up. I said, I've told all of them that, to talk to their parents, that they can call me, and I can share all that. I covered my bases. And she said, she mentioned the boy's name that had fallen into my shoulder crying. And I'd actually spent 20 minutes talking with him. And she said, "You're wasting your time with that one. He's a lost cause." And it was all I could do not to go over the table and punch her because I looked at her and I said, "You're a school counselor and you're telling me at 13 years old, he's a lost cause?" I said, it explains, I said, why we have all these kids that are struggling here. If that is your attitude, you're a lost cause. I was just mortified. And so I went home. I still thought, it's this school, right? You're thinking, oh, it's this school. No wonder there's, the counselors like that. And when I did some research, I found out that actually it's not that school. It's every single school around the world. It is just, it's an epidemic. And I was relating my story to a doctor acquaintance, and he said, "That's your life purpose." And I was like, "No, it's not. I'm going down to talk about my book." And he says, "No, no, 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 no." He says, 63 kids that you do not know. They do not know you, but they came to you and they told you their story. He says, because you know what they're going through. He said, that is your purpose. And I fought it for a couple of weeks, and then I thought, you know what? Let's start doing something about this. And here I am.
Yeah, I love that. Now, if I wasn't like crying through half of your story, I was like, oh, that's so sad and good and sad and frustrating all at once.
Yeah.
So now what do you do now with the kids in the schools? Do you go in and kind of do the same thing? Come in, show your prints, talk about your book? Is that sort of how it goes, or what's the...
Oh gosh. So it's really expanded. So obviously, yes, there's talks and visits. But I also, as you know, I have a website and I have lots of information on there. I've been on TV, podcasts, radio. My philosophy is engage, educate, empower. And so from that, I have a YouTube channel. And so I post a blog post and a YouTube video every other week. And it's on bullying or mental illness pertaining to the child and the teenager. That is the audience. Because I want people to understand that kids have mental illness. We know the stats say 75% of all mental illnesses show signs and symptoms by age 24. 50% by age 14. And so we know that this is a serious problem. And the sooner we're able to support and help these kids, the better able they are to go on into the future and into adulthood. Because if we don't, we know we're on a very slippery slope, because, then we have suicide, drugs and alcohol, joining a gang, criminal activity, penal system. 75% of under 30 years old in the prison system right now have a mental illness that was not properly dealt with. So it's trying to be the voice for the kids, but also counselors and teachers and parents and just the people in general, adults, how we can all come together and help these kids, because not everyone has an adult role model, and anyone can be an adult role model for a kid. And so, yes, so then it grew to a monthly newsletter. Now, I developed my own online course. So it's an 8-module course specifically about mental illness in children and teenagers. And 3 weeks ago, I started my own podcast. And so the podcast, Engage, Educate, Empower, has a guest every week. And we talk about topics specific to children and teenagers, so we can start not only educating people, but raising awareness that we need to implement supports and resources upstream. We can't wait for the catastrophe downstream, that they need help now. And so this is, it's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I could definitely see your doctor friend thinking that it's a life purpose, because 63 kids don't really just kind of come out of nowhere if you haven't touched a nerve, right? or a place that was kind of raw for them. I am curious though, having like 2015 is reasonably recent.
Yeah.
Is this difficult for you sometimes? Because it sounds like you use the blog, you use that to recover, or I don't even know if there is recovery. You use that to get to where you are now. Is it triggering for you, or sometimes difficult for you to sort of hear what these young folks are saying?
Absolutely. I believe they've diagnosed me with, it's a genetic form of depression. So that more or less said, this is you. What I've done is through the healing process, I call it the healing process, on the step to recovery, because I'm never ever going to be free of it, but it's learning how to accommodate it into my life. And I always say to everyone, especially kids and the teenagers, don't let the mental illness define you. It is a part of you. In the healing process, obviously, therapy, very, very important. And that was raw and real, because you have to go back to the childhood abuse and everything, because it all factors in. But other things was lifestyle changes and lifestyle choices. It sounds, lots of people still have challenges understanding this, but it's gratitude. I always journaled. And I journaled as a way of trying to make sense of everything that was happening to me and why I was not getting better. And then eventually my psychologist said, you have to reframe this, Tracey, because I would go in and say, just give me a date. Just give me a date. In 6 months on a Tuesday, you will be well. And he says, I can't do it. He says, you have to think, your brain's been fractured into like a million little pieces, and the pieces are starting to come back together again, but they're not coming back the way you want and in the time frame. And so he said, this is going to be a very long journey for you. Think of things differently. He says, start expressing gratitude, that even in the midst of all the darkness, there is positive. And I was like, yeah, really, what have I got to be grateful for? And he said, roof over your head, groceries in the cupboard, flushing toilet, hot water. And I went, oh, okay. And so, for the first couple of weeks, every time I journaled, I would express gratitude, but it was more like, oh, today I am grateful for running water. Today I'm grateful for. But it became like a routine. There was not really thought involved in it. And I was going back to see him. And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to say to him, I can't do this. It's not going to work. And then I walked out of my home and I looked down into the garden, and it was the end of winter. And there was snow that was melting. And a purple crocus had broken through the snow, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And so the intensity of that purple against the white, and I just looked and I thought, wow, what a beautiful color. And then I'm looking at it, and I was just looking at it for the longest time thinking, this is amazing. And then all the thoughts go through your mind. Spring, new life, new beginning, broken through the cold snow, and all of a sudden, I could feel that I was relaxed. I felt very peaceful, and I was smiling. And it was like that light bulb, and I went, oh my God, gratitude. And that was it. It's a learning practice, because then when I realized what it was, I would deliberately make a point of looking at what would give me joy. But what was funny, after only a couple of weeks, you don't work at it. It just comes naturally. And I think that was the pivotal moment, because it allowed me to break free from those horrible, negative, dark, overwhelming thoughts and feelings that you have, to suddenly focus on, but look, and as I said today, it's a beautiful blue sky. There's not a cloud in the sky. The sun is shining. Gratitude. A puppy running with the owner trying to catch the puppy. it's what gives you peace and joy and makes you feel happy that you've shared that moment and that you're alive. And so I think that has helped me enormously, because when I have the bad days, and you do have bad days, and when you have depression, your bad days are not like other people's bad days. They're like whoosh. I've given myself permission. I called it "It's okay to not be okay" days. And it's like, okay, so today's not such a good day, but you know what? Get into your routine, go outside, go down to the lake, just feel the sun in your face. Even if it's raining, it's cobwebs that you see with little bits of raindrops and things. And just relax, because you come through this before. It's that inner dialogue. And tomorrow we'll start all over again. Whereas before it would be just that beating up, well, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. I'm not going to make it. And so, yes, that was the pivotal moment. And that is something that I've actually spoken to with the kids and help them understand that there is still life out there that they can become part of.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds to me like you just figuring out there was a difference between the thought gratitude and the feeling of gratitude.
Yes.
And that distinction seemed very pivotal for you.
Yes.
I think the other thing I've heard, and I work in the coaching space, not in the mental health space, but the idea of we have our thoughts are habits too.
Yes.
Right. So you had, let's just say 40, because I don't know when you retired or all of that, because you said you retired recently, but if you've had 40 years of abusive, like you started out with abusive thoughts and parents said certain things to you and you said that stuff to yourself, not purposely, but every day.
Oh, no, I know.
80 to 90% of your thoughts are these awful thoughts. It's going to take more than one day to think new thoughts, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So it sounds like that the gratitude is an opportunity to reframe your thoughts, to think new thoughts, to think new positive thoughts. And perhaps if you don't have the genetic depression, but if you have situational depression, or if you have some depressing things that are happening and you're younger, you're catching them so much younger, they don't have 50 years of the dark thoughts. They have 3 years of dark thoughts. So I love the idea of early intervention and kind of that it is retraining your brain to.
It is.
And the hopefulness that you've got a history of making it through.
Yes, and it is believing. When I'm at book signings, I always what I write is believe anything is possible. Never stop believing. Just believe, because believe, hope. It's what propels us on. And it's interesting because as we're in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and people are now on self-isolation, and there's a lot of talk about mental health. And certainly I think it's giving people an opportunity, and if they look at it the right way, they will consider it as a gift, an opportunity to actually explore their inner self, but also to connect with their family, to connect with whoever they are in this space, and look at what's the most meaningful and important in life. In the whole scheme of things, yes, it's a scary time, but if you're in your own home, you're safe. You have the people, most of the time, you have the people that you love with you. In some situations, we know that's not happening, and that is really scary. But if you have the opportunity to go outside and, just feel raindrops on your face, or a snowflake in your mouth, or sun on your face, this is what we have to start ventilators that may never have that opportunity. And so we can't squander that. if you understand what I'm saying. And I think if people can start reframing that, and wow, I don't have COVID-19, I am alive, my family are with me. Look at that positive, not how much longer am I going to be stuck inside? And, when I go to the grocery store, there's no toilet paper. Look, we have to start looking past that. And I'm hopeful that many, many people will do that and will start reconnecting with their kids. Sometimes the universe does weird things to show us that we have to change. I've been saying for the past couple of years, I have a feeling that something is going to implode. It wasn't, I didn't think it would be this, but maybe this is it. I mean, but we can't battle against it and start screaming and shouting, this is not fair. We have to say, this is the situation. How can we now turn this into an opportunity where we'll sit back in years to come and say, wow, did we ever have great times? And did we ever share stories and connect?
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm at home. I think we talked about it at the beginning. And I have four children, 6, 8, 10, and 14. And we haven't gotten on each of those nerves yet. I thought we would, but we've got another 30 days together. But what's been nice though is my oldest daughter is a teenager.
Of course.
She's 14. She's a beautiful redhead, like your person in your story. And she'd been kind of like very self-isolating in her room, as teens are known to do.
Yes.
And this has given us a chance to see her.
Yes.
She can't be there all day, right? So her friends were getting all of her good energy.
Right. And then, yes, you get what's left over.
Yeah, I get what's left over. So I'm just thankful that I made them. I wanted them, and now I get to be with them.
And I 100% agree. It's, to all parents, foster parents, guardians, whatever role you play, even if you can't see the child or the teenager, connect on social media, Skype, Zoom call, phone, do something, and spend that time with them, because as much as kids say, I want my independence and I want to go out with my friends, they still need that safe confines of knowing that there's unconditional love and support from the family. And that just, it doesn't matter what silly, stupid mistakes they make, and they will, because we know that their brains are not fully developed yet, that you're still going to have their back and you're going to be there for them. And I think this is the opportune time to really do this nurturing and this, the guiding, and modeling behaviors that are, show kindness and love and understanding and compassion, because it could really make them amazing, amazing people that are going to be our future.
Yeah. I know one thing that I've seen other moms and talk about, and I've been trying to repeat to anyone who wants to hear it, which is try not to treat your kid like they're a burden because they're stuck home.
Yes.
They're stuck with you, right? They used to have friends, they used to have teachers. They don't understand what's going on. Like, you think you're having a rough go, try to be a little kid that like is, what happened to my friends and where is everyone? And I know it's difficult, but they're not a burden, right?
No, absolutely.
They're stuck or in it just along with you, and doing our very, very best to understand that, right? Give ourselves some grace, because that will help us not act out as adults.
Yes.
Give them some grace, because all of their brains are being made right now in the midst of all of this.
Oh,
right?
It's shaping them. Absolutely.
So screaming your head off because you're frustrated is, that's an imprint that's going to be made. So
yes.
Hopefully we can rethink that. And now's a great time as well to read some books.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, and it's to have the family time, the movie nights, let's work on a puzzle, let's play games, but also it's the opportune time to show your kids how they can live independently. So involve them in the running of the house and, the household tasks and things, and have them, consider it as you are a team, because they can learn skills at home that can carry them through if they go to university, college, get a job, leave home, go and live with a roommate or something. So the basic things of cleaning and household budget and finances and cooking.
Yeah.
And it's still time spent together, one-on-one and as a family, where you can have conversations that you will start sharing each other's world. And that is so pivotal, because when the going gets tough and something happens in your teenager's life, especially, hopefully you have such a strong, trusting relationship that they will be able to come to you and share their concerns and know that you will respect them and help them. And I think this is that time. So many people are saying, well, I get it. You're working long hours. You're working 2 jobs. When you come home, your kid has got, his or her face in their phone or on the computer. Well, structure time around time together. Go for a walk together. Go for a bike ride. Bake a cake. There's so much that you can start doing that, you may say, what? But it's that time, because at the end of the day, kids want to have that, and that time with you where you can say, you know what? Oh God, your hair and the way you dress drives me crazy, but I love you to bits, and you are such a great kid. And I am so, so overwhelmed with happiness that you are my kid. Yeah. They want to hear that. They'll say, oh, get out of here. What are you talking about? You're being weird.
Yeah,
but they're going to walk away.
You're weird.
Right? But they're going to walk away. And there's this warm feeling they have that tells them, I got your back, kid. I love you to death. And that's what they need to hear. Love isn't an expression of giving them a new iPhone or a secondhand car. Love is saying, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
So it is. I think if we have to reframe this as this is an opportunity to help our kids and ourselves be the best that we can be.
Yeah, our best inspired self.
100%.
Well, that's a 100%. Great segue. So if anyone wants to find your book, buy your book when we're allowed to go outside and play again, bring you to the school, maybe go to your course, how do they find you, Tracey?
So the best way is to go online to my website, because it's got everything there. www.traceymaxfield.com. And yes, there's all my podcasts. There's my podcast show, lots of great articles on teen bullying, mental illness, all about my book, mental health resources, bullying. I called it one-stop shopping because I didn't want the focus to be on me and the book. I wanted it to be an area where people could go and look and say, oh, wow, what a great article on depression, in teenagers. I'll take some of this and now I'll help, I can work with it. And so, yes, it's everything is there, I call it.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll make sure we have your website and all of your links. You're everywhere. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter. So we'll make sure that, everyone that can find you wherever they want to be. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed my time with you very much, and I look forward to maybe someday the next course or the next book.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.